up and running. Okay, let's admit. Remember, guys, turn your cameras on if you can. Paanii, hey man, we can't hear you. What's up?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes, we can hear you now. How are you? Well rested?
I'm well rested. I'm all good. Yeah, it's good to see you guys as well. How are you, Portia?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. So I told them well, no, I didn't tell them all about you, but so basically, I work with the organization called True Star Media, and it's a teen media organization here in Chicago, working with teenagers, developing them in various areas of media. And this is the After School Matters marketing team. So this is a group
Um,
of high schoolers who are either interested in marketing, learning more about marketing, or some of them are already have experience in marketing and advertising, and some of them even have their own businesses that they started.
oh wow,
Yeah, so it's a nice variety of students here, and you can also see in the chat if you want to pull it up. I don't know if you're familiar with Google Classroom, but a lot of them are saying hi in the chat, so some of them may speak over there, but
yeah,
but it's nice to see you. It's so nice to see you.
yeah. It's good to see you too. It's been a while, so
It
I'm sure you guys
has.
already know Portia is the best. So
Oh,
glad that you guys get to work with her.
oh, awesome. Well, like I said, I told you in text, we watched, I think, 3 of the 4 videos that you sent over, but we're gonna watch this last one. And I'm not sure if you sent them over in like a chronological order of which they were produced. Because if so, this might be the first one that you or the
Okay,
earlier one. So we'll watch this together. And
cool.
then we're going to open the floor up to you to tell a little bit more about yourself and your story, and then opening up the floor up just for questions. So let's check this out.
Cool.
Hey, you ready?
Netherlands and Nigeria before a capacity crowd.
You're not done.
Nu is het serieus is gevaarlijk en ze schieten dus een goal! Wat een heerlijk moment!
Oh, off the post. And here comes Ji So Young on the attack.
공격합니다. 수연 수비를 제칩니다.
All right, get together, get strong. Oh, seriously? That's the cover.
Women's football game sets new sales record.
Amicoso mesmo Andressa de bicicleta! Golaço!
Wang Shuang rocks the world yet again.
Biggest turnout ever seen in sports. How does it feel?
Here's Barca making a last push. And there's a foul.
That post, Gerard. Okay.
Big opportunity for coach Alex Scott and the team.
PK! Round the back!
Coutinho to PK. Goal! The league's first female coach makes history. Keeper fires to Dunn. Oh, that's incredible footwork. She's on the move. Big chance for Australia, and Kerr setting up for the kick.
¿Pero qué está pasando ahí?
I think that's there's like an extra minute on it or something like that.
Oh, it is. I'm sorry.
No, I'm saying that was it.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, Mr. Paanii, could you just tell us a little bit about since well, I don't know. I think back to Mizzou, and I think we met the first time going on the media tours.
Yeah.
It was somewhere, and it was a blizzard. But so since your time at Mizzou, can you just talk a little bit about one, deciding, well, some of them wanted to also learn about like picking a school and like learning about like how to decide on a major. So I believe you majored in journalism, so J school, right? So how did you go about selecting the school, and how long did you know what you wanted to do?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. So I would say actually growing up, I wanted to be a broadcast journalist. I thought I wanted to be in like sports broadcasting and go down that route. So that's how I landed on Mizzou. I just started to research, where the top journalism schools in the nation. Mizzou obviously is number one, and also, number one. And also they have really good financial aid programs. So that was what sold me. It was like, oh, okay, I can go to this top school, but they also gave me a really nice package. So, I didn't have to come out of pocket for as much as I would have had to at other schools. So I landed at Mizzou, was going down the broadcast journalism route. And then I started to explore a little bit because I just felt like, man, this is cool, but I don't know if it's right for me. And I always had this heart for marketing and advertising as well, just growing up watching, like, for example, Nike commercials are really like any Michael Jordan commercial. It could have been McDonald's, Gatorade, like Coca-Cola, like really any brand that he was in the commercial, I was obsessed with. So I was like, man, I really want to get into this industry because the way that I was inspired watching those commercials, I want to do the same for the next generation, people, younger than me. So I went ahead and switched my emphasis from broadcast journalism to strategic communication, which is basically advertising. That's just how they define it at Mizzou. And I met Portia being a part of National Association of Black Journalists, NABJ, went on a media tour. But just back to my career path, I wanted to do advertising. Then I had to pick like what I wanted to do in advertising. And we can get into this a little bit later of like the different departments that you can do. I'm in account management personally, but there's so many different departments like strategy, creative, if you actually want to create the commercials and write the scripts and stuff, and a whole bunch more. But hopefully that answers your question. Yep, University of Missouri. Sorry, we call it Mizzou for short, but University of Missouri. Oh, I can't.
Sorry, I'm on mute. My bad. I was just saying like go Tigers. But so I could go on with questions for a very long time. For one, I'm so proud of you. But I do want this time, because I know we only have about 30 minutes with you. I want them to be able to talk to you and ask questions. And I would just like to highlight Victor for having your camera on. Thank you so much. But if anybody has a question, please feel free to unmute yourself and Eden as well. Sorry, you had your camera on earlier too. Hey, Eden. If you will, I would like to ask Mr. Paanii a question about his career. How I know you were in Chicago with,
Leo Burnett. Yeah.
Yes, with Leo Burnett for a while, and then you transitioned to now you are where, like, if you want to tell them where the Nike headquarters is.
Yeah, I'm in Portland, Oregon right now. So completely different from Chicago. I'm not from Chicago originally, but I was there for 5 years out of college. And Portland, Oregon is a very different city than Chicago. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, I could imagine it's like Nike's campus.
Yes.
Okay, but I see Mia just put a question in the chat. She asked, what drew you to Nike?
Yeah, it's a good question. So honestly, I have always loved the brand as a kid. I would say it's mainly due to my obsession with Michael Jordan, which, depending on who you talk to, either that's like a really good thing or a really bad thing. But I was just like growing up obsessed with him, like pretty much anything associated with him, like I was saying earlier, I was in love with. And the same thing with Nike. So a lot of the commercials that I watched inspire me to, continue playing basketball and to, just like push myself to be, the best I could be. And the opportunity came up while I was in Chicago to, go ahead and move to Portland for this current job. And I took it because it really was a dream job. It's a brand that stands for a lot of positivity. A lot of the athletes that they have were athletes that I love as well. So it was really easy for me to say yes. See this other question.
Well, I want them to ask their questions. I don't want us to get caught up in just typing it all in. Definitely type your question down so you can get your thought out. But Dylan, if you want to ask your question, I know sometimes you want to add emphasis on things or explain things a little more. Not just you, Dylan, but everybody. So, Dylan, do you want to ask your question?
Yeah, sure. I can ask it. My question was, how did you feel about moving across the country for work, especially being away from like your family and friends? Was it like a tough decision to make, or how did you feel about it?
Yeah, that's a good one too. It was tough because like I said, it was a dream job for me. It was really the goal always, is like, it's kind of the pinnacle in the field to be able to work on a big brand. Like there's certain brands that it's like a dream to work on. Nike's one of them. Apple is another one. Gatorade kind of, but like if you work on any type of like Nike ads or Google ads or like YouTube ads, whatever, like those companies, when you have that on your resume, it's like, oh, okay, this person's doing something. So even though it was a sacrifice to move away from, a lot of friends and be a little bit further away from family, it's like I'm at the age now where I'm just like, career chasing really, and like trying to get to a certain point in my career so that later in my life I can be comfortable. And, I encourage people, like, if there's something out there that you want, go get it. Because, do it while you're young. When you get older, it's harder to like move around. And when you start having a family and stuff, it's hard to like pick everybody up and move. But when you're able to just move without leaving anything really behind, go for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And just a quick question before you get to Imani. Is there any Mizzou Mafia at Nike? No, wow.
Yeah, so there was a couple of Mizzou folks that were out here the last couple of years that are younger than me, but they all just moved to New York. So
Okay.
yeah, it is what it is. Like there was a couple, and it's nice to have them, but it's pretty slim out here. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, and just so you all know, the Mizzou Mafia is a term that if you went to Mizzou and you majored or work in the film or of any realm of media, then wherever you go, there's always going to be somebody who went to Mizzou who works there. So I'm shocked by that, but shout out to you holding it down.
I'm trying.
Imani, do you want to ask your question?
Yes, my question was, what else played a role in you getting selected to work with Nike besides what you majored in college?
Ooh, good question.
Yes, that's a good question. I would say, honestly, it's all about networking and just putting yourself out there in a way that people can always vouch for you. So for me, I was in Chicago for the almost 5 years that I mentioned, and I was just building my resume up. You come in when you're new in the industry and start from the bottom, and you just have to work your way up, build that network, build the good rapport with people you work with. And there's a lot of different programs that, in this industry you can apply to as, a younger entry-level person that also gets your name out there. So I applied for this program called Ad Color, which is basically like, it literally means what the title is, Ad Color, meaning like they want to get more minorities into the industry, find ways to get them ingrained, find ways to open different brands' eyes, companies' eyes to how the need for diversity is important across the board. So I applied for that. They have a program called The Futures, and basically they select young people from all over the industry to participate in like a leadership development program, Well, I got really lucky because they were looking for my current role that I'm in now. They were looking for a young Black male to fit in, and Ad Color is one of their like partners. So they looked on the list of the program that I got into and said, "Oh, look, there's a young Black male. Let's talk to him and see if he's interested." And honestly, that's just like because of my network, because of the programs I applied to, and people who saw my name on there and vouched for me, I was able to get in the door. But honestly, it really just goes into like how hard you work when you get into the industry and who you can stay connected to.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if you like it really. So just so you all know, it really does come down to who you know. Because when you do enter, if you all do decide to pursue a career in marketing, producing, media, any type of realm, these are such highly competitive positions. Even if it's just an internship, even if it's just an entry level, and so forth, because you can go on and say you apply for like through NBC or any of these major organizations, and they get probably thousands of applications submitted that way. So for me, like Paanii, I don't know if you can speak or vouch to this, but I've never gotten a position by just going online, filling out an application, and getting picked.
Same.
Those companies, from the other way, they go looking for people in these positions, or they go based on recommendations. So it's really, 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 really critical that it's all about who you know. So that was a great question, Imani. Chasney, if you like to ask your question, I like we're taking it in different directions, guys, because now we're getting into the actual production and process of everything. So Chasney, do you want to ask your question?
Yes. My question was, do you know how much time it takes to film a Nike commercial and also how much money goes into the production?
Oh,
Yes.
budgets.
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Portia.
No, I said budgets.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So I'll give you a couple of different examples. So I know you guys watched all of the links that I sent you. So the first, I can't remember if it's what number it was, but I sent one, and the film was called We Play Real, and it was about Black women. And that budget was a little bit less than $2 million to create. But the unique thing about that was we didn't film anything unique or new for that. We used existing footage from different pictures, different sporting events, and put it all together. So like for those type of commercials, those usually are created because we have a shorter amount of time, and we did that in about 5 weeks, which is pretty quick in advertising because there's so many different rounds of reviews you have to go through, and also like you have to, like I said, make people happy, and you have to get approval to use different clips and all of that. A lot of stuff that goes into it, but we were able to do that in 5 weeks, and that was like a little bit under $2 million. Now on the flip side, the last video that we watched when I got on, the Dream Further, which was obviously a really long commercial, 3 minutes, that was like a $5 million commercial, if I'm even remembering correctly. It was really expensive, and that's because they had different locations. We had to shoot in LA and also in Barcelona, Spain, and there was a lot, like it's a soccer commercial, so I don't fault anybody if they're not as familiar, but there was a lot of athletes in there that we had to film, that we had to manage, and that project took, I would say, almost 4 months to make. So you had like 5 weeks for a smaller project that didn't have anything filmed, and then when you actually had to film something, that took almost 4 months because of all the different logistics that goes into it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, awesome. So like when it comes to one thing, I was chatting with them earlier, like when it comes to these like I feel like there's no such thing necessarily as a small campaign. But let's go to Victor first. I want to ask you what Victor's question is.
My question is kind of like a two-part question. The first part, who funds the money for this? Does some of it come out of your pocket, or is it from Nike?
No, it's hey, let me tell you, it's all Nike's money. Like it's not coming from me at all. So every year Nike gets like a certain marketing budget, if you will, that they have to plan how to divide out throughout the whole year based on the different campaigns. So like, just to give a quick example, let's say Nike basketball has a big budget. I'm using this number as a fake number. This is not how much they have. Let's just call it $10 million. And in that $10 million, they have to decide, all right, how much money are we going to spend on a LeBron campaign? How much money are they going to spend on a Kevin Durant campaign? How much money are they going to spend on a Kyrie campaign? So once they figure that money out, then each project has that specific budget that you have to work into.
My second question was, when you were going or doing your applications or trying to get to Nike, was there ever a point where you wanted to quit or was having second thoughts? And if so, what changed your mind to keep going?
Yeah, that's a good question. So
great question.
I would say there were times where I was like, man, do I really want to move? Is this the right move for me? But as I said earlier, I was at the age I think at that point I was still 25, which I'm sure to you guys sounds old, but it's not. And I was just like, let's just go. You know what I mean? Like I'm young, I might as well give it a shot. And if I don't like it, then at least I have that on my resume, and at least I'm able to use that to get a different job that I want. So it's tough because everybody has different motivations and different reasons why they want to do something or why they decide not to do something. But I would say, if you are able to, chase after a dream, go for it.
Yeah, you can definitely leverage it. So also in the first week, we're going to come to you next, Roy. In the first week of class, I asked each of them during their introductions of what's your favorite brand? And so Nike came up quite often because like Nike is like it's not just known in Chicago. It's not just known in Portland or in America, but it's a huge global brand. So like that was a huge opportunity, but I could definitely see wanting to figure out and weigh your options. Roy and then Evan.
So I was wondering, since you work at Wieden Kennedy, does that mean you're also on the marketing team of Nike, or do they like outsource like making marketing advertisements?
Great question. Yeah, great question. So they do. There is twofold. So they do outsource to for us, we do like all of the big brand campaigns, and then some of the small ones. Like right now, we're doing a comic on sneakers app. I'm sure all of you sneakerheads get a lot of L's on sneakers, myself included. We're doing a comic right now on that app. It's called Marisol. So if you guys check it out, it's pretty cool. It's about a 17-year-old girl who lives in New York. And yeah, so anyways, that wasn't your question. But the point is, yes, they do outsource. There's a lot of things that they also do internally as well. Those are usually more like quicker pieces that they don't need like a whole other branch to work on, if that makes sense. Like it just depends on what the project is and if they decide to do it internally or work with, they have a huge roster of agencies that they work with.
Awesome. Or did you have a follow-up? Yeah, go ahead.
So do you like work closely with their marketing team, or like are you part of the planning process of an ad, or just like, oh, this is basically what we want, and they give you like a rough outline of what they want the advertisement to look like, and then you just like finish it out? Or how does
that's a great question. No, so usually when we work on stuff, it actually starts with us. So they'll just say, hey, we want to, for example, the Black woman commercial that you guys watched, that was like them saying, hey, we want to create something that honors Black women. That was literally the brief, and that's what it's called, a brief, when they give us an assignment and say, we want this. That's all they said. So then from there, we get into the strategic planning of it, figure out what we want this to be about, what insight we want to work off of, and how it's crafted and what the script looks like, the talent we use, all of that stuff. Then we give it back to them, and then they go ahead and decide like, yeah, we like this, maybe change this a little bit. But I would say 85% of the planning comes from us, and then they kind of approve it or tweak it a little bit.
So
Oh, okay.
basically, you
Thank
have
you.
to pitch it though, right? Like, about how many ideas do you have to come with to pitch them for them to pick from?
Yeah, thank you for adding that. Yeah, basically, it's like we have, if it's like the first presentation, it'll be like, there's maybe we come with like 5 different concepts, like 5 different scripts, or maybe 3 ideas or something like that. And then they usually pick one and say, we like the direction that this is going, but can you change this and this and this? And then, we recraft that and send it back to them and say, all right, cool, how's this? And they say, yep, approved. And then we get into production and we have to create the whole thing from the jump, and that for that specific project took 5 weeks. But other projects, like I mentioned, can take 3 months. Like we're working on one now that we've been working on since January, and it doesn't come out until the end of June.
Oh, wow. Okay, so timelines are important.
Very.
Let's see, Evan and then Eden. So what's up, Evan?
Yeah, I was just wondering with the summer coming up, and me like looking at different opportunities and things, if you had any advice or recommendations for what programs someone that should be looking at, or opportunities someone should be taking if they're interested in marketing.
Yeah, that's a good question. And remind me, are you going into college? Are you still in like junior year high school?
I'm a junior, yeah.
In high school?
Yeah.
Okay, no, that's a good question. So honestly, this is a piece of advice that I've given a few times. In your neighborhood, I would just go and talk to, like a local shop, or like just like a small business, and say, hey, I'm aspiring to be in this field. I really want to get some practice. Do you already have somebody who does that marketing for you guys? If not, like, do you mind if I practice and like try and come up with some ideas? And if you like it, then you guys can use it for free. If you don't, then at least like I got to, just give it a try and, see what happens. Because then when you get into college and there's like programs that you can apply to, you can show that as the work you've already done and things that you can build upon instead of, starting from scratch at that age. So that's my advice now. I'm sure Portia has like a lot of resources in the city that you could probably tap into. But I would say if you can get practice just by using local small businesses, that's a great place to start.
Yeah, and then the thing is, like, you could like, we did like a mini Canva. I don't know if you're familiar with Canva. We did a mini Canva training. So like that's primarily where we have them working. But like if you do go to these local businesses, you can design it on Canva if you want, or easy where like say they don't even have the budget to like print anything, or this will go really cool on a billboard, but say they don't have the budget or the money to put it on a billboard. Just maybe ask them at this point, every business should have a social media page. And a lot of small businesses, it's the owner of the business who's probably mid-50s trying to manage it. But if you tell them like, hey, can I just like work on your social media for you? That's like budgetless content that you can create, and it doesn't cost anything, and they don't lose anything by having you work on it. So that was a great piece of advice, Paanii. Let's see, Eden.
My question was, are there any like perks to working at Nike, or like any benefits from working there?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I would say every once in a while, some shoes come across your desk, or like, some jerseys or something like that. Like every once in a while you get that. And then I'm also able to go to the employee store out here, which is cool because you get 40% off anything in the store, which is nice. But they keep it so like there's some good stuff in there, but it's not like the heat. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like the stuff that's cool. You can get some tech suits in there and stuff like that, but you're not gonna get like the hottest Jordans all the time. They have them in there from now, like every now and then, but it's that. And then I would say like getting to meet athletes and get into just be in different meetings and rooms in which like you wouldn't be in working anywhere else is another great perk.
Do you ever go to any of the production sites, like when you all are producing the pieces?
Yeah, and that's like the probably the most fun part of my job is getting to go on the productions because that's where you get to see what you've been working on for however many weeks like actually come to life. And you get like I would say just so you guys know like when you go on productions everything is covered by the company, so you eat for free. You know what I mean? Like you just literally get to just be on set all day, getting to see the camera work, getting to give your opinions, get into, like I said, meet the talent that you film. There's just like a lot of fun that comes into shoots. You get to travel. Like I've seen the world, being able to go on productions. I've gone to Barcelona. I've gone to Cape Town, South Africa. I've been to LA numerous times. That is like really an awesome part of it.
Yeah. And so one thing I want you all also to think about, so when you hear those numbers about budget and how so much money, right? The budget is including the talent. So like if you're going to have an athlete performing or even showing their face, you have to pay them. You have to pay Paanii, everybody on his team. You have to pay for the production crew. So who's going to actually coordinate the shoots, who's going to direct it, who's going to come up with the costume, the design, the lighting, the aesthetics, and then who's going to edit it, and then how are you going to distribute it? Are you going to post it and put ad dollars behind it? So all of that goes into budgeting too. Roy, we got another one.
Hit me.
I was wondering what you think the difference is between working at Leo Burnett and Kennedy is, and which is like the only reason why you worked at Wieden Kennedy was to like be able to work with Nike.
Great question. I would say what you just said is the biggest thing was being able to, leave a great company, but getting to move to a company that, I was able to do my dream job at. And that was like the biggest thing for me. It was like, how can I continue to climb in the industry? I don't think I left Leo Burnett on bad terms. It was just like, I felt like I did all I could do there. There I worked with Intel and Samsung, which are cool, but like obviously when you stack them up personally, like Nike was just more meaningful to me. And I felt like the purpose of what I was doing meant a little bit more than what I was doing on Intel and Samsung, which were like, this was cool. And I was like, all right, it's a good start, but like, when can I start caring a little bit more? So it's that. And I would say the other difference is like, Wieden and Kennedy, and this is like getting really deep, but like it is independent company. Whereas Leo Burnett is owned by like a bigger holding company. So there's just more freedoms that you get working at Wieden versus working at Leo Burnett. Leo Burnett's a great company. It's just a little bit more traditional. And you'll find that in advertising, like traditional is cool, but it's also outdated. Like being able to work in a company where you can switch up how you work anytime you want and challenge the company to do better when you don't feel like they're doing enough, like it's really rewarding.
Man, awesome. And by the time you all get to this point, I feel like the industry is going to be way different. It's going to be run by the people who are innovating and changing up the standard. So I know you've got to go in a bit, but one question I wanted to ask. So a while back, we did a presentation on implicit bias and how certain brands and companies, when they create these marketing campaigns, they just miss something and it flops. So they missed the mark, whether it's offensive, whether it just was not impressive or didn't leave the impact they thought it was going to be. But Nike seems to always hit the mark. So what is it about Nike where they never have to, well, not never, but we hardly ever see them having to retract an ad or retract a marketing campaign or put out a statement. We didn't mean to be offensive in this way and that way. So what do you think it is about Nike that saves you all from ever having to deal with that and always hitting the mark?
That's a good question. I would say it's mainly due to the audience and like the talent and the people who work on it. Like it's hard to make those type of mistakes when you're making a commercial about Serena, or you're making a commercial about LeBron, or you're making a commercial about, the people who usually you would misrepresent. Like it's hard when those people are the ones approving the ad, is one. And two, they're getting more like our team is becoming more diverse for a reason. When you don't have a lot of diversity in a lot of ways, not just color, but just diversity in thought, diversity in background, diversity in approach, it's always going to come out being the same. And like what I love about our creative directors is that they check with everybody. Like if it's a certain subject matter, they talk to people who identify in those subjects and ask them how they feel. Like although that's a smaller sample size, it still goes a longer way than a room full of people who think they know everything there is to know about the world, and they decide, all right, this is a good commercial. You know what I mean? Like it's very different, and I really love that. And I'm sure you guys watched that Pepsi commercial. I don't know, like clearly
we talked about it.
yeah, clearly they had the wrong people in the room, and it really is all about having the right people in the room and making sure. So I would say whatever career you guys go into, definitely make sure that whatever is being talked about, you have somebody in that room that understands that subject matter better than you do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it was what's the football team that NWA always wears? It's like a pirate or something.
The Raiders. The Raiders.
Yeah, the Raiders. Okay, you know what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So like I think they put out a statement after the verdict came out with for Derek Chauvin, and it said we can breathe 2020. And like that was a miss. So like we talked about that, and it's just crazy. Like you said, everybody has to approve it, even beyond just the diversity piece of it, but everybody has to approve. Like that's why the productions take so long, because it has to go through so many hands. So when you do see large companies and brands making these mistakes, that just means that they don't have enough diversity on the team. And that just means that all of these phases that this had to go through to be signed off on, not one person on that team was in a position to, or not one person who was in the position to green light it, stopped and thought, no.
Yeah.
So I think that is something that Nike does extremely well. I don't know if you have time for one more question or if you have to run. Okay, so does anybody want to close us out with a final question for Mr. Paanii? All right, I think that was Eden.
Would you say that you enjoy your job and like you enjoy working there and doing what you do?
Oh, yeah, work-life balance. Work-life balance. Yeah,
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say yes, I do enjoy my job, but I would be lying to you all if I didn't say that, advertising requires a lot of hours at some point, especially when you're in production, we're actually making the work and going through all those different rounds. Like it takes a lot of time. And I think that if you don't love what you're doing, it could take a toll on you. And like, thankfully I do love it. So it's not too bad, but just to prepare you all, like there's a lot of hours that go into advertising.
Okay.
So
awesome.
I don't know if Dylan had a question. I can answer Dylan's question as well. Sorry.
Oh, Dylan. Oh, no problem. Dylan, you want to go?
Oh, I didn't have another question.
Oh, okay. I saw that. Okay.
Okay, no problem. So if they wanted to, so everybody, we haven't talked about like LinkedIn or anything, but if you have a LinkedIn, that's amazing. If you don't have one, you should start one. But if they want to keep in touch with you, could they friend you on LinkedIn or reach out there? Okay, awesome. So guys, the LinkedIn link is actually already in the chat. So I was prepping them for before you came, but thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. Okay, yep, Imani, I'll definitely put the link back before we wrap up. I'll put it back in. But thank you all so much. Or thank you, Paanii, and thank you. You had amazing questions, you guys. I'm so impressed.
Yeah, this was great. Sorry, I was gonna say this is great, and I really enjoyed speaking with you all. If you have any other questions, please don't hesitate to reach out, Portia. If you need me to come back, I'm happy to come back and talk more. So yeah, just let me know.
Awesome, great. And next time, I don't know if I'll ever be in Portland. I don't know. But if you're ever back in Chicago,
yeah, I will be back. So
okay, a summertime shy is brewing up.
Right.
All right. Well, thank you. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, you guys too. See you.
All right, bye. All right, that was cool. That was really cool. One thing he was saying, I didn't want to necessarily say it while he was on to take up time, But like he's right. Like when you're in production time, that's where you're gonna probably put in some of the longest hours, because imagine you've spent 2 months coming up with the concept and planning and scheduling and working with and hiring people to produce something, but you have to produce it within, like, say you have 3 days to produce it, right? So say for instance, if you're not putting in the hours and if you're not as attentive, say for instance, like, oh, we forgot to capture that one thing, or man, we did this, we filmed it and the lighting wasn't perfect, but it was like, so now we have to go back and reshoot. So now we're gonna have even spend even more of our budget, or we're gonna go over budget. But the biggest thing is when you're working on these campaigns, if somebody tells you, okay, I have $100 for you to do this, right? To do this for me. If you come back saying, well, actually it's gonna be 150, understandable, but the client might be upset. But if you come back and say, we actually only spend $75 and you get to keep 25, then they're gonna rock with you even harder. Let's see, Jessica said, so he majored in advertising. So no, he went to the J school at Mizzou, which is the journalism school. And it's comprised of different entities. So journalism, I know some people might look at the journalism and you just think, oh, that's just writing. But journalism is broken down, at Mizzou is broken down into writing. So actual written journalism, broadcast. So that's like the people you see on the news who are hosting things and speaking and talking on camera. And then Stratcom. So that's what he said. He went in, got into the J school and was going for broadcasting, but he adjusted his major to be a strategic communication. So strategic communication, otherwise known as Stratcom, is where you do get more so into the marketing, advertising, coming up with strategy around media. And then there's one other subject, which I think might be dying off a little bit. I can't remember the name of it, which is probably why it's dying off. But yeah. And then another thing about school and college. So I know sometimes you think, oh, I'm going to go to school and I'm just going to be this major. Well, once you get into school, this is something they probably don't tell you. Once you get into college, right? So say you're a Paanii, you come in, you're a freshman, and usually freshman, sophomore years of school, you take what are electives. So they're the general education requirements that you have to take. But let's say you want to be a journalism major, or you want to be an electrical engineer major, or a nursing major, or something like that. Once you get to your sophomore year, you have to apply to get into that school. So yes, we went to Mizzou, we went to the University of Missouri. However, he had to apply to get into the journalism school, and I had to apply to get into the communication school. So you still have to apply to get into the schools that you want your major to be in. But that's just a fun little tidbit. But yeah, let me add his Paanii's LinkedIn account again to the chat. That was really cool. And remember how we talked about implicit bias and why it's so important? It could save you a lot of money. Because like Pepsi, they put that commercial out, and it might, like, that commercial, it was a long commercial. So how much did he say they spent on that 3-minute commercial? I think he said $5 million.
Yeah. So
that Pepsi commercial, I think, was longer. Might have been like 5 minutes. So that means they had to have spent probably between, I would estimate, 5 and 8 million, 8 or 9 million, because they had Kylie Jenner Kendall Jenner. And she, at that point in time, was like the number one model in the America, maybe the world. I don't know. But so that means the budget was probably a little higher. So could you imagine having spent $8 million on something, put it out, everyone hates it, and it might have been uploaded and running, and you bought advertisement spots on television, right? So that means that you paid to have this televised and promoted and pushed and everything, and you paid everyone who's in it to post it on their social media accounts and everything, just for within the first day to have to take it down and never have it run again, because you did not have the proper people on your team to say, no, this sucks. It's not, you're missing the mark. And that's a large scale example, like one of the most in our time and most modern day. That's probably one of that commercial might be one of the biggest L's that a marketing agency and company or brand has taken as far as like the money they spent and versus not getting the return on their investment. But like, actually, let me stop recording now. But that was great hearing from Paanii. It was super dope. Okay, stop.